What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we got in a powerful testimony, detransitioner Chloe Cole spoke out against gender-affirming healthcare. You know, with this issue right here, somebody like me or other conservatives, we could talk about this issue all day, but I think it means a lot coming from someone who's actually went through transition and detransitioned, has matured, and has a personal take to give from it. So let's hear what he has to say. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while we're watching the video. Now let's get into it.
Over the past decade, there has been as high as a 4,000% increase in children being referred to so-called gender clinics across the United States. I was one of these children. My name is Chloe Cole, and I am an 18-year-old former transgender child. I transitioned from the age of 12 up until 16 when I realized it all was a lie. My story is a cautionary tale. Children and parents across the country have been caught off guard by gender ideology. Discussions about transgenderism and gender identity went from being a relatively benign social oddity to a doctrine that has invaded nearly every academic, medical, and educational institution, seemingly overnight. How did we get to this point? How did we get to the point where nearly every pediatric institution in the country considers it best practice to remove the healthy breast tissue of children while administering drugs typically used to chemically castrate high-risk sex offenders? Raising these important questions is not bigoted, and the refusal of activists to give straightforward answers should be seen as a major red flag.
In my opinion, this should be an issue that whether you're on the left or right, you should be able to agree on. This level of just pervasiveness shouldn't be okay, no matter what side of the aisle you on. And anyone else that's okay with these therapists and these surgeries and things like that, if that's really what you think, I don't know, maybe, but I think it seems like you want some sort of virtue points for affirming people, but these young kids don't need to be affirmed. They need to be told a truth. They need to be given different options. Affirming is just telling them that this is the only way. Listen to whatever your body or your mind is telling you at this age. Affirming isn't telling you that you might get older and change your mind. You might grow out of this. We need more doctors and health officials sending that message to kids. Give them another option other than affirming.
People across the entire political spectrum who believe that this practice is morally wrong have been told that they are fascists or bigots for even questioning this atrocity. Others have been convinced by self-proclaimed gender specialists that this is the only treatment that will not end in your child committing suicide. I believe Americans deserve to know the truth about this radical and perverse ideology, marketed as necessary and life-saving healthcare. I was only 12 years old when I told my parents that I was a boy. Like many parents in that situation, they didn't have a clue what to do. They were scared and desperate for answers. They wanted what every parent wants for their child, for me to be okay and thrive. At 13 years old, on the advice of so-called medical professionals, I was put on puberty-blocking medication, and only a month later, I was given my first testosterone injection. The gender clinic presented my parents with the classic false dichotomy regarding children with gender dysphoria. Would you rather have...
And one thing I want to say as well, I understand the position you could be in as a parent when your child comes to you and says something like that, and you don't know how the child is really feeling, and you think you don't know as much as a doctor, but you got to be careful who you send your kids to, because they could come out like this. They could end up doing what the doctor said and regretting it. That's a possibility. Keep this stuff in-house. You know what I'm saying? Speak to the Lord instead of speaking to a doctor all the time, or even a friend, or I don't know, someone wise that could give some good advice, because the therapy and doctor route is failing a lot of these young kids.
Have a dead daughter or a living son? Given these options, what loving parent wouldn't choose to transition their child? Scared for my life, my parents were prepared to sign anything the doctors asked. This was not informed consent, It was a decision forced under extreme duress. At 15, I went under the knife for a radical double mastectomy, the kind that breast cancer patients get. This was after I was sexually assaulted at school by a male student. I just told myself to man up, but I lived my life in constant hatred of my breasts. I started binding, which deformed my breasts as well as my ribcage. I was afraid, and I couldn't wait to finally protect my body from the threat of further molestation. At 16, I finally realized what happened to me, and that I had made a huge mistake. I realized the beauty of motherhood was stolen from me by medical professionals who my family entrusted me to. I realized after maturing a bit more that a child does not in fact know who they are at 12 years old. I realized that I wanted to be what I always was and forever will be, a woman. With this realization came a series.
Okay, let me just say right now, I got that wrong. This is a natural born woman, not a man. Sorry about that.
Series of challenges that were far worse than the transition. Somehow, I had to get myself off these drugs and tell everyone in my entire life that I was not who I said I was. My parents were shocked and felt like they failed me on every level imaginable. My friends all turned against me because I was evidence that their beliefs were a lie. I was a joke. I was a fraud. I was many years behind in development, incapable of feeding my future children, and worst of all, completely alone. Even the medical professionals who got me into this mess now have no idea what to do with me, and they refuse to help me. It almost killed me, as it has killed many who regret transition. The big question still remains. How was a 12-year-old introduced to the idea that they could do something as ridiculous as change their sex? I was and still am the type of kid that never really fit into social norms. I was a tomboy, I was shy, I didn't socialize easily. At 11, I made my first Instagram account. I had unmonitored internet access. It wasn't long until I was exposed to a ton of LGBTQ content online. And I had never seen anything like it.
So let me just stop you right here. People say that this stuff isn't a problem. Say that to this. Call this young lady a bigot or a transphobe or a homophobe. She's been through it. You just virtue signaling on the other side of it, but she's actually been through it. This is a powerful statement.
You mean that all I have to do is subscribe to this ideology, and then I'm an accepted, celebrated, and valued member of the most talked about community on earth? Transgender people are the most celebrated subset of this community. I saw the unbelievable amounts of praise and attention they got online, and subconsciously I yearned to have a piece of it.
And that's what you got to understand. That's what you really have to understand, is that this online world that you in all the time, and obviously I'm speaking to the younger generation, this online world that you in all the time is not the real world. If you think you alone and you isolated being the normal you, imagine when you turn yourself into the opposite sex and now you have hair and now you have breasts. If attention is really what you want, I'm telling you, that's not the way you want to go about getting it. If you feel a void, that's not the way you want to go about feeling it. There's a lot of other ways, a lot of different outlets you could take, talk to someone, do something, but that is not the way.
With every milestone in my medical transition, I was given more and more attention and celebration. It was the ultimate high. Even in person, I got more attention. Girls would have crushes on me, and I would have people come up to me in the hallways asking to make friends, and it was unprecedented for me. I felt like a celebrity. Being a kid, I didn't know just how superficial these relationships were until they all suddenly abandoned me just for struggling to become who I am. Much of this gender confusion is based on old regressive stereotypes of men and women, which are now being reinforced with hormones and surgeries. Women can have short hair and be interested in playing sports and partaking in physical activities. Men can grow their hair out and wear makeup. It does not change their biology. The truth is, this practice is harming more and more children every day. What will we do to protect this most vulnerable group? Up until now, the media has been parroting the same ideologically driven talking points. Affirm, affirm, affirm. The closest I've touched to mainstream media is a Forbes journalist who wrote a hit piece on me calling basic human biology transphobic. There are many detransitioners speaking out, and they are ignored by the institutions most responsible for the search of truth. Up until today, most politicians on the left and right have done nothing but get into Twitter fights on this issue. There is no second chance at childhood, so we must do our best as adults to guide our children to pathways that lead to healthy bodies and minds instead of depression and disfigurement. No child deserves to suffer under the knife of a gender-affirming surgeon. America's children, all children, deserve better. Thank you.
And just to comment on one last thing she said, it's not only the media, excuse me, sorry. It's not only the media affirming. It's the doctors, it's the health officials, it's parents. It's parents who buy into this stuff. Since when are you just supposed to affirm your children, agree with everything they say, and flow with every flow they flow with? No, you're supposed to be there to stop them from doing foolish things. They don't know. You're supposed to help them figure life out. And that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. But like I said, that was a powerful testimony from Chloe Cole. You know, unfortunate that she went through what she went through, but good thing she's back on the right track, and she's wiser than a lot of adults, plenty of adults. I'll say that for sure. But don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe on your way out the door. Until next time, I'm out, guys. Peace.